and welcome back to Retro Wrestling Games Presents. I'm your host, Alex G, and with me this evening is Matt Riley. What's going on, Matt?
Oh, the usual. Mayhem outside, coyotes, coronavirus everywhere. The apocalypse.
They're coming for you.
The end is near.
So this episode, we're going to take a look at WWE 2K15. Now, WWE 2K15 was released in 2014 for the PS4, for the Xbox One, for Windows. There was a Xbox 360 and a PlayStation 3 version. Now, right off the bat, when I popped this game in, again, this game was sealed. This is one of these games that I have a pile of sealed games, literally still in the cellophane, that I have to play and review some of these. This was the first release of a WWE game on the next generation consoles of PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. At this time, they were coming off two really solid, I wouldn't even consider them good releases, 2K13 and 2K14. I thought they were both really, really good. Again, they're transitioning to the newer hardware for this one. Again, when we talk about these yearly WWE releases, you're not going to see major differences. They call them upgrades. In some cases, they're not. If you look into 2K20, after playing a lot of the more recent WWE games, I've not played 20 yet, by the way. I'm not going to do that to myself until the price jumps down to next to nothing because that game is broken. In playing this game, the game felt very slow. The more recent releases have been a little bit faster. Again, when we look at the overall gameplay, the opening chain wrestling lockup feature that they have in this game can be a little cumbersome. It's a little rough. Not necessarily a big fan of it. It's something that is probably not a necessity. It kind of really slows down the gameplay overall. In terms of graphics, it's solid. It's solid. It doesn't look disgusting. It's not 2K17, which looked really bad. It's not 2K20, which doesn't look great. For the time, 2014, overall, then the game looks very, very clean. The wrestlers look how they're supposed to. They're not deformed. The crowd looks great. The sound is good. And, you have all your... I think overall, the game looks very clean and looks very good. So I was very glad to see that. Again, gameplay is probably not the greatest, especially for a jump to a newer generation of consoles. You would assume that they're going to make big differences in this game with the much better hardware. Unfortunately, that did not happen for this game. I think 16 overall is when they started getting it really together. And I think 16 is overall better game. So you have a really good 13 and 14. 15 is average. It goes up and down depending on the year from there. The interesting part about this, when I play this game, is the 2K Showcase mode. Again, they had the Attitude Era on 13. They had the WrestleMania one for 14. And this one focuses on rivalries. So the big rivalries for this particular game is the John Cena CM Punk feud, which is interesting because CM Punk had left a few months before this. In addition to that, you have a Triple H Shawn Michaels feud that takes place in your 2002, 3, and 4-ish type era. And there's also some DLC content for the showcases with a feud with Christian and Randy Orton over the World Heavyweight Championship. You have one with Mark Henry, and then you have one with the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan in it. So those are fun, and they eliminated that feature for a couple of years before bringing it back. That was a big mistake because this is why you play the game. This is how you will unlock a lot of your wrestlers, and I really like this showcase mode for any kind of wrestling games, storyline modes, showcase modes, or what have you. My career is very repetitive. It's not fun. Don't suggest ever playing it.
Why? What's bad about it?
It's just repetitive. It's essentially like you win a match. They throw some stipulations, and then you win another match. It doesn't feel very fluid. And the story is not necessarily all that good. So you start out basically where you tryout match for NXT, you get signed to NXT, you do a couple of tutorial matches, and then you run through your NXT roster, you win the NXT championship, then you get promoted to superstars and so on and so forth until you play through the entire career mode and you retire as a legend, WWE Hall of Famer. It's just not fun. It's very repetitive. And it gets old real quick. Again, it's not necessarily all that fun to play as WWE My Career Mode, unfortunately. This isn't. The creative suite for the creative superstar is really good. Again, this game, is missing some of the you create a championship and you create arena. They're not in this game, unfortunately. It's like, and it's still available on the last gen versions of this game. But the big things for WWE games in general, is the creator wrestler mode. So the creator wrestler mode has to be tight and it has to be good and it has to be fluid and you have to be able to make whatever wrestlers you want to make. In addition to that, create a championship is a big feature and create an arena is a big feature and in the modern incarnations of wrestling games. And if that's something you don't have, it's not even a game that's worth playing.
Now with this online mode, right? It's just, or the career mode, you just see it only, right? It's just you.
Yeah, I mean, the WWE games in general has done no service in terms of what I consider online play. It's not necessarily all that great. If it was me, I would take a year or two off, perfect, your game engine, perfect your gameplay, and really kind of target this to the esports community. It's a shame because esports they do for various different games, especially for fighting games, and essentially this is what this is. It's a fighting game. And the fact that they're not catering to the esport community the way they should is a big problem moving forward for any kind of wrestling game.
Now I'm gonna go date myself here, but with a career mode, what if they offered a way to say like either put parameters in there or ways to measure like storyline content to last Starfighter this bitch? And what I mean for that, for those of you not from the 80s or grew up in the 90s or whatever, with reruns, The Last Starfighter was a movie about a video game that gets made to gauge the ability of the player. And when one player scores the highest, it sends a signal out to space, and an alien race comes to get him because he's going to be the pilot for them to fly their spaceship because that's how they decide to find their pilots. So what if they made a feature where you could put your storyline online and if fans could rate it and a way to like find your next big uh, writer to get fired by Vince.
I mean, that would be something to do, 100%. Now, a lot of people are making YouTube videos with their own, kind of feds that they're doing. So the community is already doing that, even though the game doesn't necessarily allow you to do that generally. It does exist in some form or fashions. If you go watch a lot of these YouTube videos, that they're doing their own federations with other online players, and they're trying to get their stuff across. And a lot of people, that's fun for a lot of people. That's what they're doing. Unfortunately, the game itself has not picked up on that kind of trend, and they're a little behind on that. But I'd like to see that moving forward with newer releases. The roster, and this is where we will talk to the meat of this game is the roster here. I find it real interesting because it's really 2014 WWE. We'll talk about that more in a second. But the roster includes Adam Rose, Neville, AJ Lee, Alberto Del Rio 2011, Alberto Del Rio, OMM, Andre the Giant, Bad News Barrett, Bam Bam Bigelow, Batista 03, Big E, Big Show 2011, Bill the Mott, Bo Dallas, Bobby Heenan, Booker T, Bray Wyatt, Brie Bella, Brock Lesnar, Cameron, Cesaro, Chris Jericho 02, Christian, CM Punk, 11 and 12, CM Punk 12-13, Cody Rhodes, Colonel Mustafa, Corey Graves, Curtis Axel, Damian Sandow, Daniel Bryan 11, Daniel Bryan 12, Darren Young, Dean Ambrose, Diamond, Dallas Page, Dolph Ziggler, Edge, Emma, Eric Rowan, Fandango, Fit Finley, General Adnan, Goldust, Hollywood Hogan, Honky Tonk Man, Hulk Hogan POW, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Jack Swagger, JBL, Jey Uso 13, Jimmy Hart, Jimmy Uso 13, John Cena, John Laurinaitis, Justin Gabriel, Kane 02, Kane 11, Kevin Nash, Kofi Kingston, Connor, Lex Luger, Lord Steven Regal, Luke Harper, Mark Henry 2011, Mark Henry, House of Pain, Naomi, Natalia, Nikki Bella, Paige, Paul Bearer, Paul Heyman, R-Truth, Randy Orton, Orton 04, Orton 11, Orton HOP, Randy Savage, Rey Mysterio, Ric Flair, Ricardo Rodriguez, Rick Rude, Rob Van Dam, Roman Reigns, Rusev, Ryback 2013, Sami Zayn, Santino Marella, Sensational Sherry, Seth Rollins, Sergeant Slaughter, Shawn Michaels, Sheamus 13, Sheamus, HOP, Sting 91, Sting 1999, Stone Cold, Summer Rae, Tamina, The Great Khali, The Miz, Rock, Titus O'Neil, Triple H, Tyson Kidd, The Ultimate Warrior 88 to 96, Undertaker 91, Vicky Guerrero, Victor, William Regal, Xavier Woods, and Zeb Coulter. Here's the thing about this roster, like more than half this roster is locked, so you have to unlock most of these guys.
Yeah.
But it's a good segue to what we'll talk about is how different is this roster versus we're in 2020, a 2020 roster. Like there's not a lot of guys on this roster here that I just went over that is still currently in the WWE. And it makes me think, and the 2014 going into 2015, how much wrestling has changed over the last 5 years. Pre-AEW, pre-NWA, pre-MLW. Essentially what you have here is you have your WWE, you have Ring of Honor, you have TNA/Impact, and that's all you got. And what's funny to me is like when I look at this roster and I see how much it's changed and how much wrestling has changed over the last 5 years, it's mind fucking blowing.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the roster that they have, their current roster, there has to be at least 25 guys on the current WWE roster that I thought they were never ever going to sign. No way in hell that I thought they were going to bring in AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, bring Drew McIntyre back, Kevin Owens. Like it's just shocking, Ricochet, Matt Riddle. It's just shocking that they actually brought these guys in. Where there was a long time where a lot of these guys would go to Ring of Honor, some of these guys would go to Japan, and a lot of these guys would be in TNA. And that's the way it was. And why do you think WWE had to make that change?
Why? Well, I would say probably their roster is aging out.
For sure, 100%. They can't really kind of throw out the same guys anymore. I think, imagine if they continued their current hiring practices. Well, their hiring practices from back then. If they continue to this day, and you would have a very different WWE. It'd be a lot of Randy Orton versus Sheamus matches. Still, imagine how many guys that would be available for AEW right now.
Oh. Well, I know Connor and Victor are getting their bounce soon.
Yeah, they're on their way out, and Luke Harper is gone, and there's a lot of guys on the way out. And it's just, to me, AEW with more star power. Could you even imagine that? Could you imagine a Sami Zayn and a Daniel Bryan and a Kevin Owens and a Ricochet and a Riddle?
Oh,
and a lot of these guys on their roster right now. It would be fucking insane. They'd be stacked.
I think what's nice about it is that because they are considerably smaller, every time somebody new comes in, they can put it together the right way. Like we were talking, is it Matt Hardy going to be the exalted one? Well, most likely, I think he will. I mean, I could see a swerve maybe, but it's like, I think you want to keep things simple for the fans. Having it be a thing where, like, we're going to have multiple factions. No. That's like NWO Red, NWO, like, what? No. Just keep it simple. Let the Dark Order kind of do their thing, and wherever you're going to go with it, that's fine. But I think, in a way, it's good to have, like, this Dark Order group because it gives you that sort of continuity or like consistency. Because I think one of the things about wrestling is, and I'll say this, my one big beef with AEW, if I want to have one big beef, they don't really talk about AEW Dark at all, and there should be at least a 5-minute segment recapping what happened last week, so we know, because there are matches on the show that'll be like, oh, and something's happening at AEW Dark. Well, I didn't see it. What if I'm just a regular casual viewer? You have to keep in mind, not everybody's a hardcore viewer. You got to reach the people who are casual. And I think this is where most wrestling companies fail. Is, the hardcore fans, like, guys that liked WWE back in 2015 or their stars, whatever, they're not likely the ones that really come over. But the new fans are like, kind of flipping channels, check it out. Oh, Chris Jericho. And I think that's the kind of guy you want to shoot for.
It's tough because you don't want to dumb it down. Like the WWE tends to dumb it down to the lowest common denominator, and AEW, you shouldn't do that. But you just got to slide it over just a little bit. Like right now, you're at an 85%. You need to get down to like 50%. WWE is like, we want to dumb it down to 10%. That's what they tend to do. And it's been successful for the last 50 years. It's worked to various degrees. People often forget that they almost went out of business in like 1995, but that's a whole nother thing. It's just the wrestling went like if you would told me in like 2015 that number one there'd be all of a sudden kind of out of nowhere, and it is very much out of nowhere, a legitimate competitor to the WWE would emerge seemingly out of nowhere. Cody Rhodes and Young Bucks, what? I would have called you a goddamn crazy person.
Yep.
But it's happened, If anyone would told me, hey, the NWA is going to reemerge, kind of, out of the ashes of a failed Impact sale,
Right.
and NWA kind of rises. MLW basically coming out podcast kind of deal into coming back as a promotion. I would have called you crazy. The world has changed so much in the last 5 years. It's mind-boggling, and I've never seen such a big change in the wrestling industry over this amount of time since, I don't know, possibly entering the Attitude Era when everyone made that change from a G or PG product to a mature product, or those changes don't necessarily occur, and the change has been slow when it comes down to like WWE. Because is there a big difference between 2005 WWE and 2015 WWE? Not necessarily.
Right.
Even the emergence of NXT as a viable, quote unquote, I guess third brand. Raw and SmackDown are considered one brand. WWE main roster and NXT that's a second brand. But they're putting on fucking fantastic fucking shows. Those takeovers are amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that one is better than the other in terms of any of this. I'm just saying that did anyone think when they were doing their NXT game show, that they were able to sell out the Barclays Center in Brooklyn? I would have called you a goddamn liar too. It's amazing to me. People forget like NXT it was a game show. It was ridiculous. It was literally the stupidest thing on the fucking face of the earth until Dusty and Triple H and William Regal, kind of put their heads together and made something fantastic out of it. And I think people kind of just, don't talk about Dusty Rhodes' contribution to NXT and how he was a very important cog and, kind of getting that vision over. You know what I mean? So, it's just amazing to me. Again, I look at this roster and I see, there's still guys that are still there. There's, Dolph Ziggler is still there, not doing much, And that's the biggest shame when it comes to, if you look at a modern WWE roster, you look at the list of talent that they have currently, and then you cross-reference that with the amount of talent that they're actually doing something with.
Right.
It's almost criminal. It's almost criminal.
It's at a point where you're now just hurting people's careers to keep them from the other competition.
Right, and they're hoarding talent, and they've been on this, acquisition mode for the last, I would say, 2.5, 3 years almost. If you have a name, they're going to try to get you.
Right.
Now they really don't want guys going over, and they're extending contracts, and they're freezing contracts, and they're being really aggressive about guys leaving now, where it gets difficult for them to go. That being said, you have these guys on your roster, do something with them. I think Ricochet is a once in a generation type talent. Bottom line. Does anyone think that they've done good by Ricochet?
No, well, he just lost to what's his face, Moss, Riddick Moss, I think it is.
It's like
for the 24/7 title, which is I'm trying to think of a way to put this.
I said it was a bad idea when they brought it back out.
AEW Team Challenge of Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
That's just awful.
It's like I wouldn't even want to go after that belt because it makes me seem like a fucking job boy.
Yeah.
That's it. Like they have done nothing to elevate that championship to mean anything. Like it would be kind of cute or funny to have like Brock Lesnar win that out of nowhere one day. You know what I mean? Just to give us some oomph. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's way too many people on the current roster that are just not doing anything with. And if a lot of guys looking over, it's like maybe I can go to Japan and get a fresh start, or maybe I can go. Look at Drew McIntyre. You can't get lower on the card than Drew McIntyre was.
Yeah.
He goes out. He goes over, the independence. He goes over to Japan for a little bit. Gets that buzz back, and he comes back a star. Now they've waited. They waited a long time to put him back, in the main event spot here. Put him in the main event spot, but he's here now. It's a shame what they're doing with some of these guys. It's like, you look at their championship page and you look at, your Universal Champion is Goldberg and your WWE Champion is Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, Goldberg. Ugh.
Again, their roster is very bloated. They probably should need to cut at least 50% of it. But I don't think they will because they're scared that they'll become bigger stars at the competition.
Well, like look at the Revival. I mean, we're all kind of assuming they're heading out because they've been hinting at it, and that's fine. But again, like you said, like if they go over to AEW or NWO or NWA or wherever,
They're going to be a big deal wherever they go.
right?
They're going to walk in as top guys right off the bat.
Yep.
And that's the majority of their roster that they have right now. It's like if AJ Styles leave, although I don't think he's ever going to leave. I think he's WWE for life. But, if Keith Lee leaves or Kevin Owens leaves or Sami Zayn leaves, they're automatically top guys wherever they go. And they're going to draw. They're going to draw.
Yep.
Maybe not Mojo Rawley, but no way Jose. You know what I mean? But again, there's a lot of guys on this roster they're not doing a heck of a lot with, and that's a goddamn shame.
Yeah.
It exploded. It's WCW 1998. That's what it is. And there's so much talent on here. The talent's unfucking real. It's probably the most loaded roster I've ever seen in terms of in-ring performance. It's ridiculous. There's very few guys on this roster that I can say is a liability in the ring.
Right.
That's not capable of having a fantastic match. And that's where they're at right now. That being said, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do because they are lacking in stars though. Because no one's getting over here.
Right.
To a degree, like there's no one on this roster that's achieved the level of a John Cena, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Hence why they're going back to guys like Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. Not these guys' fault. It's just the way it is.
Well, I think part of it is it goes back to my theory that the reason there's not bigger stars is because you keep putting these guys like, I get they want to get the bump, but I'm convinced what happens is they see that Goldberg gets a big return on invested people watching, right? Well, give him the belt. Let's really make this happen. And then you're like, well, he's 53 years old. He's been retired. The last time he wrestled, he almost killed The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Is this really the guy you want to go with? And Goldberg, besides all that, sorry, he's not a good wrestler. He's terrible.
It never was.
Yeah.
He's a larger than life character. He's a good character. He's good in the 2-minute squash matches, but that's about it. He's over. He's over because WCW fucking pushed him down everyone's throat. Out of everyone that they did not elevate, that's the only guy they elevated. And you see what happens. Now he's over forever. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And if you need him, you can dust him off. But who's going to be the Goldberg in 10 years, though?
Oh, man.
That's
in 10 years? Well, 10 years means someone who has to be on top now or big star that we don't see around.
Maybe a Seth Rollins, maybe.
Well,
if he goes away, maybe a Roman Reigns that they could dust off.
Maybe.
Like if one of these guys retired tomorrow, and you brought him back in 10 years, who's getting a huge reaction?
Maybe Roman.
Probably Roman, maybe Rollins. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe The Miz. You can only work those nostalgia pops for so long. They're not gonna work. Goddamn shame is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think overall, again, I can't mention this enough, how much wrestling has changed in the last 5 years. Some for the better, some for the worse. but it's so different than it was in 2015. You just go by the roster of this game. And that's why I like these wrestling video games. They're a nice little, snapshot, a little time capsule into what was going on at that particular time in professional wrestling, in WWE. Pardon me. But I think overall, this game is a solid entry in the WWE 2K franchise. It's not the best game. It's not the worst game. Should you go out of your way to play it? I don't think it's necessarily necessary for you to go out and spend the $15 on Amazon to purchase this particular game, unless you're wax poetic for the CM Punk John Cena feud and you want to play through that. That would be the thing that you want to do. So, all right, guys. So we are officially out of time. So for Matt Riley, I'm Alex G. Have a good night.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?